Hello and welcome to Cultic Cube, where we cube religiously. Today we will focus on a famous cycle of creatures, the mythic titans introduced in M11. I argue that you should almost certainly break the cycle, regardless of the goals of your cube. We'll rank the titans' relative power level, and consider both higher power and lower power alternatives to them, which may better fit your specific environment. Our topic is inspired by a question from viewer Blake W., who asks, "Why don't you run the whole cycle of Titans in your cube? They are iconic, and I would run either none or all." Thank you for the question, Blake. As you intimate, I do not run the white or blue Titans in my 450 card Legacy cube. I'll explain my approach to the Titans, who are, I agree, iconic cards with powerful effects. They are a reminder, along with M10's Baneslayer Angel, of that moment when Wizards marked in a spectacular way that Magic would increasingly be designed to be played principally through battlefield interactions. And I can well understand Blake's interest in preserving the totality of a cycle. I too appreciate the aesthetics of symmetrical structures, but I think that as far as Cube is concerned, cycles are made to be broken. And I would hazard that you likely agree. Take the Boon cycle from Alpha. Almost every cube will run Lightning Bolt, while few cubes indeed have any interest in Healing Salve. Or, if you object that creature cycles comprise a fundamentally different category, then consider the Dragon Lords from Dragons of Tarkir. I run 3 of the 5 dragons, and I do not know many people who run Dramoka or Kolagon. All this is to say that I do not believe that I need to be all or nothing when it comes to those giants of M11. In fact, I think that while none of the Titans are actively bad cards, they operate at differential power levels. Most people would do better to run the subset of the Titans that supports their broad design goals. I rank the Titans in terms of raw power thusly: Grave, Inferno, Primeval, Sun, and Frost Titan. I argue that the closer one is to vintage power level, the more likely that one only wants to run the first 2 or 3 of these, while the closer one is to standard power level, the more likely one only wants the last 2 or 3 of these. Grave Titan is an absolute house. 6 mana buys you 10 power and toughness, spread across 3 creatures, and things only get worse for your opponent from there. His keyword, Death Touch, is more or less irrelevant on a 6/6, but I'm certainly not about to insult this guy's keyword to his face. He passes the proverbial Vindicate test, in the sense that even if he dies straight away, one still gets a couple of tokens out of the deal. He synergizes well with tokens and aristocrat strategies, and he spits out zombies, which is a popular tribe in cubes that support tribal synergies. Gravy Train wins games of Magic. Inferno Titan is also amazing. He is great as a curve topper in big red decks. The fact that he can divide damage makes him quite flexible, such that he wrecks weenie strategies, makes combat math difficult for the opponent by tagging potential blockers with damage, and just goes to the opponent's face. His fire-breathing ability can be quite relevant. If he eats removal immediately, then he's not amazing as a 6-mana Flames of the Firebrand with a Mind Peel tacked on, but that's also not the worst. He also works well with red cheat, such as Sneak Attack, as here he gets to throw around 6 damage and attack for 6 or more before dying. Primeval Titan is as good as your lands are. If all he's doing is getting you a couple of forests, then he's probably not amazing, unless you are trying to hardcast a Craterhoof Behemoth or the like, in which case you hopefully ramped hard into prime time in the first instance. The deck thinning makes very little difference until you have managed to use the ability a few times, though a shuffle effect does have some intrinsic value. All this is to say that I think Primeval Titan is not great as a ramp enabler, given that he costs so much himself, and he's also not much of a ramp payoff, as he is pretty similar to a Colossal Dreadmaw if you don't care about his ability. But if you have broken utility lands to find, then Primetime's value goes way up. Some popular lands to search up include Strip Mine and Wasteland, Dark Depths and Thespian Stage, or even Kessig Wolfrun and Inkmoth Nexus, for those of you who remember the standard season of 2011 and 12, and Brian Kibler's victory at Pro Tour Dark Ascension with Wolfrun Ramp. Sun Titan gives people cause to dream big. Such aspirations include setting up loops with Mind Stone to cobble together their own one-sided Howling Mine, or reanimating their Fleshbag Marauder to assemble an Abyss. These are dreams of slow durdles, and in high-power environments, this sort of value grind tends to be a losing proposition. In practice, if you can reanimate a wall of omens, you should take your 3-for-1 and be pretty happy. In my experience, the big dream rarely materializes, even in relatively modest power level environments. The most common target for Sun Titan is a fetch land, which is not terribly exciting. Vigilance is also a somewhat lackluster keyword. Frost Titan is the most woefully misplaced of the Titans. As a rule, blue decks are simply not much interested in big dumb beaters without evasion. Frosty looks like a tempo card given his tap ability, but tempo decks want to cement their advantage early in the game, with spells such as Force Spike, Remand, Manowar, and Venser Shaper Savant. Of course, there are times when Frost Titan's ability is good. It can turn off an opponent's big battlecruiser creature, or it can take an opponent off of a splash color. But 6 mana is a steep cost for a creature whose ability is so comparatively modest in its effect. If this Titan is killed straight away, you often get only nominal benefit for having cast him. And of course Frost Titan protects himself, after a fashion, but again, by the time you are at 6 mana, your opponent can probably pay the tariff for the go for the throat, even if it costs them some tempo, or makes it easier for you to get them with a mana leak. Thus, if your cube runs at anything approaching Legacy power level, or higher, I would be wary of cubing Titans apart from Grave and Inferno, and possibly Primeval Titan as well, if you have clever lands to find with it. Cubing a lower performing Titan is effectively setting a trap for players who incorrectly evaluate the card's utility in the environment. The Legacy Cube drafter who puts Frost Titan in a control deck as a win condition is actually losing win equity, in my experience. Here are some cards that I would consider running in place of the weaker Titans, and here is how I would rank the relative power of this alternative collection of 6-drops. I would replace Sun Titan with Elspeth, Sun's Champion. She is an exceptionally powerful planeswalker, who does an amazing job protecting herself, both by gumming up the board with a ton of blockers, as well as by being capable of performing conditional board sweeps that her own boys dodge handily. Second, keep Grave Titan, who is a busted card in limited Magic. Third, replace Frost Titan with Consecrated Sphinx, who needs to live until your opponent untaps, but provided it accomplishes that much, it puts you pretty far ahead. It's a Muldrifter that demands a card out of your opponent's hand, and if they don't have the answer, Sea Sphinx will carry the game out of the opponent's reach quickly. A slightly lower power alternative to Sea Sphinx is Aetherling, but here I am cheating a bit, as I think it is more correct to think of Aetherling as a 7-drop, rather than a 6-drop, as one badly wants to hold up his flicker ability. Fourth, consider running the colorless Honorary Titan, Wormcoil Engine. This card is a resilient bundle of stats, who goes far towards stabilizing most board states. Fifth, run Inferno Titan, or think about upgrading him to Chandra Flamecaller, who is similar in power level to the Titan, but is arguably better on average. Sixth, sub out Primeval Titan for Carnage Tyrant. I know, everyone groans about totally uninteractive stat monsters. But Green's plan A is to fill a deck with bad cards, such as Elves, in order to hasten into play some big scary threat. If that threat can just eat a Doomblade and die, then we would probably do better to cut Green from our cubes entirely. If one is running at something more like Modern power level or lower, I would nix the top tier Titans. In place of Grave Titan, consider running Demon Lord Belzenlock. He's a 6/6 flying trample, or flample, demon, who at minimum replaces himself with another presumably useful card, such that if he dies before one untaps with him, one does not feel just awful. Other black 6-drops to consider include Noxious Gearhulk, who is, honestly, better than Belzenlock, Massacre Worm, Marionette Master, and Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni. In place of Inferno Titan, just a step behind him in power level, is Emissary of Grudges. He's still quite strong, though. I run him at Legacy in addition to the Red Titan. Fairer cards include Combustible Gearhulk, Charmbreaker Devils, Hellkite Charger, and Crater Hellion. If Primeval Titan isn't your speed, and you don't mind silver borders, consider Earl of Squirrel. He's cute in junk tokens, with things such as Deranged Hermit and Tristani Discordant. The card's floor is, admittedly, pretty low. Other potentially interesting green 6s include Rampaging Baloths, Green Warden of Marasa, Honored Hydra, and Regal Behemoth, though I have reservations about this last one, which I might tackle in another video. A lower power cycle that might interest you as well is the group of M15 Souls, which were designed to be fixed Titans. The most popular among these are the colorless, white, and black souls. The blue one is, unfortunately, probably the worst, but at least it flies, I suppose? In short, do not feel beholden to cycles. Play the cards that complement the power level of the environment that you are cultivating, and that best support the draft archetypes that you hope to foster. I would also add that while the Titans can be good control finishers and good mid-range top-end, I think they are a bit overvalued by drafters in general. They have their place, but their place is not sacrosanct. Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoy this content, please like this video and subscribe to the Cultic Cube channel. Check the video description for links to a number of fora for Cube discussion. I can be found regularly on the Cube Discord and irregularly on the other sites. Let's chat Cube!